Will anyone be speaking?
What's that?
Will anyone be speaking?
Yeah, I hope so. And now, it would be nice if her family is leaving from Winnipeg. It would be nice if anyone has anything that they'd like to say about Gerda. I will start. I can say that
If you can hold this.
Thank you. I didn't know Gerda professionally, but I met her on the tennis court about 23 years ago. And oh my God, what a tennis player. She was a little, yeah, the tennis delegation will attest to it. She was a lefty, and she didn't just whack the ball over like most of us to get it over the net. She assessed her partner and decided what would be the best spot to get them and strategically spun it over. We had so many fun times playing tennis with her. I also traveled with Gerda. We went to New York together and Amsterdam and England and Germany. We had a lot of nice memories. And of course, we ate ourselves all the way through every restaurant in Chicago, making sure that they would survive, you know, because that's important. But most of all, she was my friend, and I will truly miss her.
Beautiful.
Next.
I'd love to say something, but
Yes,
let me finish eating.
and this little mic is just so that folks watching on the live stream can
Oh,
hear.
this is fancy.
Thank you.
And so I wrote my notes because I have a lot to say about Gerda, and I can go off into tangents, and I don't think you guys would appreciate that. So I have my little bullet points, so bear with me. So first, I want to give my condolences to Gerda's family in Winnipeg. Thank you for sharing Gerda with us. Chicago was her second home, and we were all the better for her being here with us. Gerda was a very complex woman. She was the consummate social worker and therapist. She was also a foodie, as all of you know. She looked forward to Restaurant Week in Chicago, and we often made a date to visit a new restaurant she had been wanting to try. Gerda also liked to cook, and we enjoyed many of her desserts and appetizers at our family dinners. Gerda dedicated her life to helping others. In fact, up until the last few weeks of her life, she was still working with ChildLink, an organization that was dear to her heart. Gerda's training and temperament made her an exceptional listener. She listened attentively and rarely gave advice, but you knew she was accompanying you in your joy, in your pain, and worries. Deep empathy was one of Gerda's gifts. She was also very humble. How many of you know that she had a doctorate degree? No. I imagine if we all thought about our conversations with Gerda, many of us would say she rarely talked about herself. And only when pushed or prodded, then she would share. And I did a lot of that, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for me. Miss Gerda was also fiercely independent. The past 2 years were painful for Gerda as she came to realize how much she could not do for herself. But she still insisted and persisted. Last November, she insisted driving to my sister's home for Thanksgiving in Naperville, a 36-mile drive. We offered to pick her up. We offered to order an Uber, but no, by God, she was going to get there herself, and she did, much to our surprise and worry. Gerda, I will miss our long talks about our careers, our clients, and our families. You were a dear friend to me and to my family, and your absence at holiday dinners and family events will be deeply felt. It gives me comfort to know that you are now in peace and surrounded by love and light.
So we were in Gerda's gourmet dinner group for 25 years. And in all that time, maybe spent 5 minutes sober. Gerda was one of the most fun people to be toasted with. Wonderful sense of humor. She was a great cook. She absolutely had the best things to say. And I knew nothing of the rest of her life, nothing, until I found out she was from Winnipeg. And I thought, that's exotic. I had this picture of her growing up in this log cabin with a sod roof, braving the Saskatchewan winters. Then I found out Winnipeg's really in Manitoba, not in Saskatchewan. And it gave me a whole new perspective into Gerda, this hardy pioneer woman making her way to Chicago, becoming part of a sophisticated circle of friends and cooking for all of us. We'll all miss her. I have my memories of her. Every time I have a cocktail, think a little bit about Gerda.
I'm going to go over there. Excuse me. I'm going to go into that. Hi, everybody. I'm Judge Patricia Banks, retired. And I want to say to the family that you had such a precious jewel. I met Gerda back in, I think it was 2012. A mutual friend of ours introduced us. He said to me, there's a woman that I think you would love to meet. And he said to her, there's someone I want you to meet. I was the presiding judge of the Elder Law Division of the Circuit Court of Cook County. And my Gerda, she was such a poster person for the aging. She aged in place, and I don't know, it was so great for us to have met because the friend who introduced us said to me, I think she'll be able to help you. Gerda, of course, is a clinical social worker. I had an elder justice center. I needed people there, volunteers. I had 100 lawyers at the Elder Justice Center volunteering. And I needed a clinical social worker to work from, little or nothing, because they were all volunteers. Gerda and I sat in my chambers. We talked. We decided we liked one another. And she said, I think I'd like to volunteer for 15 to 20 hours a week with you. And oh my God. I'm looking at her like, you're gonna do that for me? And she was so delighted to do it. We put on all sorts of seminars and we talked all the time. And for the seniors at the Elder Justice Center, when they would come into the center, they needed legal advice, but they also needed to know about their benefits. And that's how Gerda came in. She was a benefits specialist. And so as she became a little bit more unable to start having her health challenges, she and I retired in 2017. She would call me and we would talk on the telephone. She would tell me what was going on with her health-wise. And then she told me that she thought she might have to move out of her unit. And we discussed where she was going to move. And I went up there to visit her and we had our food. We had a nice meal. And family, to Gerda's family, she showed me in her unit, all of you. She showed me her childhood pictures. She showed me her pictures of her parents and also her other family members. And it was so nice sharing that with her. Over the last maybe 6 months before, maybe 4 months before she passed, she called me and she was saying, you know, I just wish I could just get well. You know, this is just going on too long. And then she called me back and to tell me that, you know, COVID had set in also. And I wanted to go see her, and I couldn't go visit with her. And that hurt me a little bit. But when Iris called me, I really so much appreciate you, Iris, because Iris let me know that Gerda was no longer on this side of, you know, the world. And I just, I miss her. She was close to my family members, and she was close to me. My husband here is with me. He worked in the Elder Justice, volunteering with her, and they became also close. And so I'm wishing that she is resting in peace, and I thank the family for sharing Gerda with so many of us, as I believe you did. So thank you.
It's Joe Manning.
I thought it was you. Oh.
Yeah.
You know, looking at I know that man.
Hi, my name's Joe Monahan, and I'm an attorney in town, and one of Judge Banks's volunteers. And I met Gerda when I was a young lawyer working at the State Guardianship and Advocacy Commission, probably 40 years ago. And Gerda was in charge of the psychiatric hospital for children. And I ran into Gerda, and she and I really disagreed about a lot of things. But the one thing about Gerda, and the reason that I'm here today, is she was such a love-filled, wonderful professional who cared about the people, whether it was elderly people at that point with Judge Banks, or these young kids that were just in horrific conditions, and she advocated for them all the time. And so over the years, I was able to have contact with Gerda mostly on a professional level. I consulted with her, she consulted with me. We had, I had the greatest respect for her. A few years ago, she was named Social Worker of the Year by the Illinois National Association of Social Workers, and I happened to be there to honor her that night. And as I was leaving my office on Friday, I had forgotten that Gerda's picture is on our refrigerator in our kitchen in our law firm. So my warmest condolences to the family, and I join all of you in saying what a wonderful gift Gerda was to everyone. So may you rest in peace, Gerda.
My name is Joyce Weber, and I have had such a wonderful, pleasurable, deep relationship with Gerda more recently. And, I felt very lucky to be able to spend a lot of time with her recently. There are so many wonderful things that she passed on to me as a clinical social worker and as a person. She was really a great mentor to me. I met her through my first clinical supervisor, Ted Rothon. Both of them came to the University of Chicago on scholarships to get their master's degrees in social work. And I met Ted, and then Ted introduced me to Gerda over the years. And I just can't say enough about Gerda's kindness, her sensitivity, her incredible commitment to anyone that she would be in contact with in any setting. She was incredibly committed. She kept picking up one ball after another. She worked in adult mental health. I know she worked with you, Al. She was trained at the Institute for Psychoanalysis. She got a PhD. She learned every system, every computer system. She evolved over the years. She was absolutely an incredible learner and teacher. So I cannot say enough about this incredible, empathic woman, and I feel very blessed to have known her. And I hope that I gave her comfort and affirmation, because she surely deserved it. She gave so much to so many people in every circumstance. And she had a great time doing it, you know? I mean, I'm a tennis player too. She loved so many things in life. She loved to travel. And I just can't thank, Merle and Ida and Iris and all of you people. It's so nice to have her friends together here. And I think that she is looking down upon us and saying, yes, I had a glorious life. And she gave so much glory to the world. I just feel so lucky to have known her.
Yes, I did. From Gerda, I'll stand up.
Yes, exactly.
I am here from Lincolnwood Place, where Gerda was a resident for the last couple of years. And my friend Pat here and I shared many luncheons or dinners with her, and we were always very impressed with her presence and her comments. We didn't know about her earlier life and her career. But at one point, a friend of mine died, a long-time friend, a 40-year friend. And we had sung together for 40 years. And I knew that Gerda was the person to talk to and to listen and offer some comments that would help me organize the rest of my life without my friend. And one thing that she inspired me to do, well, I knew my friend through 40 years of singing in the Chicago Sacred Harp Society or organization. It's shape note music, who many of you most don't know. But it is a going thing, and we were in it for 40 years together. So when he passed, it was a really big deal. And we talked about it, and she was so helpful. But she inspired me, because I wanted to say something to all the people who knew him. And she inspired me to make this scarf that I'm now wearing, but we didn't want a picture so much. But I had a bandana made, and this is it, of my friend's song, which has been published in the Sacred Harp Songbook, and it's one of my favorites, and his name was Ted Mercer, so this was his memorial, but I wanted to show it because Gerda inspired me to do this and to make an effort and see that he could be remembered by other people. So thank you, Gerda. I knew we had more to say to each other than we ever got a chance to, but I appreciated every moment. And I think so did the other people at Lincolnwood Place who met her and had a chance to talk with her and all. I'm sure they saw the kindness in her heart and the love she had for people. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'm going to stay seated if you don't mind. I met Gerda through my husband, and he knew her from the University of Chicago back in the 60s when he and a bunch of friends would go to Union Pier, Indiana on weekends and during the summer. And that group of people stayed friends until they all have passed away, actually. But it was quite a wild group. I didn't join the party until 2020, so I missed out on all the fun that they had. But, you know, Gerda had a way of collecting people. It's interesting, each of us in a day meet 100 people, just passing by. And some you talk to and some you don't. And some of the people you talk to, you'll never talk to again. And some of them become your friends, and that was Gerda. She was one that everyone she talked to, she connected with, and they became her friends, and she kept them for years and years and years, and I was glad to be one of them. So here's to Gerda. Here's it.
Anyone else?
Sorry, I didn't know Gerda long, but I worked with her. So sorry. Oh my gosh. I worked with her at ChildLink, but I also work at the Institute for Psychoanalysis, so we had a lot of overlap between us. And she was driving up until the end, and then she ended up moving to Lincolnwood, which is actually just so happened to be very close to where I live. So Gerda was my Friday night date for a while, and just like what everyone, I mean, she really did collect people. I was one of the people that I think she ended up collecting because she just was so, she was just compassionate, but so intelligent and so interesting. And I remember I would be going over there to do work stuff, but I'd be like, where did you get this painting, or where did this come from? And she would have the most incredible stories. Yeah, I will just always remember that my Friday nights have been very boring without her. So I will miss her very much. I know she spoke very highly of her family, especially her niece, and how close she was with them. And just, yeah, so that's all I got.
Okay. Well.
My name is Malia, and I'm from ChildLink, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I met Gerda in 2004, and I met her when I started this new agency, this new child welfare agency. It was brand new at the time, and Gerda was in my office, and she said, well, we should probably talk, because I think I have some things I can help you with. And I said, I bet you do. I know. I started that company, if you can believe it, on April 1st, 2004. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that's a sign. I definitely need some help. Gerda, at the time, was also doing work with the Council on Accreditation. And she said, well, just tell them that Dr. Shell is here, and I'm going to make sure everything is fine. And so I did. And lo and behold, we sailed through that accreditation with Gerda's guidance, absolutely no problem. And then we decided we should start a counseling department because we didn't officially had one. We did child welfare. And so Gerda's like, well, if we're going to start this counseling department, there's a few things that we need to get straight. And the first thing is, you know, there's social workers who do this as art, and there's social workers who do this as science. And she looked at me and she said, so which are you? And I'm like Gerda, I'm not a social worker. She said, oh, well then we'll get along just fine. So my background was engineering, a little bit more task-oriented, and so was Gerda's. What luck. You know, she taught me everything that I needed to know to move forward. Our program has been up and running strong under the leadership of Natalie, who's our LCSW there. Gerda made sure to call and email me every month and have a conversation about where the program is going, what our program status was, how things were going, whether she was a patient at the University of Chicago, right? Or she was in the middle of transitioning to supported living, but she kept her priorities in hand and made sure that everything went the way that it was supposed to go, and that all of our programs had the integrity and had the professionalism that I think they deserve. And making sure that the children that we work with were seen and heard. And I think that's a huge gift of hundreds of children every year for the past 20 years. So I just want to make sure you guys all know that legacy that she supported, and that legacy that she, I think, will be able to look forward to having continue, right? Because I have a feeling that that's a strong, strong program that's going to last a very long time. So thank you so much, Gerda, and all of you for lifting her up. Yeah, I'm giving it to you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Iris, do you want to say anything to? Okay. Ready now? Anyone else? Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you again to Gerda's family. Thank you for sharing Gerda with us. And I'm so glad that so many of us are here today to celebrate her life. Thank you.